Welcome to Giant Bubbles. My name is Sammy Kurzel and I am a community librarian with Deschutes Public Library. And today we are going to do just that. We are going to make giant bubbles, which I am very excited about. Before we start, the library has a bunch of books about bubbles. If you want to learn more, you can check them out yourself. First, today we are going to start with our solution. So either you will need to buy some pre-made bubbles from the store, and you'll need a container to put them in, or we can make our own. And to do that, you'll need sugar, water, soap, although I hear the Blue Dawn soap works best, a bowl to mix them in, measuring cup, teaspoon, and maybe a fork for stirring. I'm first going to get started with our water. We need 1.5 cups of water. I kept it a little warm because next we're going to mix in our sugar. And for the sugar, we need 2 teaspoons. So let's measure that out. And as you know, sugar dissolves best. Ooh, get my sugar unstuck. Sugar dissolves best in warm water. There we go. Stir that up so it gets nice and dissolved so you don't see that sugar in there anymore. It won't take much to get it all mixed up. And next, we're going to add in our soap. And you need 1/2 cup of dish soap. I don't have the Blue Dawn, but we're going to see how this works. I bet it will be just fine. So 1/2 cup is a lot of soap. There we go. I'm just going to dip it in so I get some of that out of my measuring cup. And then today, when we're making our bubbles, we'll test and see which one is better, our homemade soap or our store-bought. We'll have to find out. Okay. There we go. All mixed together. We'll see how it does. Okay friends, now we need to make our bubble wand. And all we are going to do is just use a piece of string. So you're going to measure it out, not too much, just about an arm's length. You're going to trim it off and tie the ends into a knot. And if you don't happen to have string at home, you can use shoelaces, which is the perfect time to clean those dirty shoelaces while you're making bubbles. So, ends are now tied into a knot, and then all we have to do is dip it in the bubbles. I have a couple of questions for you. What shape do you think bubbles are? Are they rectangular? Are they pyramids? Are they squares? Are they cubes? Guesses? Bubbles are spheres. Now, another question for you. Are bubbles solid, liquid, or gas? This one's a trickier question, because bubbles are actually 2 things. They have a thin layer of liquid, which is the soap, filled with gas inside. And that gas inside is oxygen or air. Now, how do we know which way the bubbles will float? Do you hear it? That's wind. The wind will kind of blow the bubbles one way or another, and that's how you kind of know which direction they will float. But also, if you use your breath, you can sometimes blow them until they pop, right? So there's my next question. Why do bubbles pop? Well, maybe you blew on them and they popped. Maybe you touched them and you stretched the thin liquid layer out too much and they popped. Or else maybe they dried out. Or the soap, the film layer, that liquid film layer, got too thin and so it popped. Now, knowing all that you do about bubbles now, what do you think are the ideal conditions for bubbles? Well, little to no wind definitely helps. And also it not being too hot outside. Because if it's too hot, those bubbles will dry out even faster. All right, I think it's about time that we blow some bubbles. Okay, friends, now bear with me. We're gonna try and make some bubbles. But of course, this is on camera, and they're bubbles, so chances are it will not go perfectly. But it's gonna be fun, and it's an experiment at the same time, which is even more fun, right? So we're gonna test and see which was better, our store-bought soap or our homemade soap. So let's start with our store-bought. You're gonna take your string and you're gonna submerge it so that it's nice and soaked through, or your shoelace if you're using a shoelace. And then you're gonna pull it out using this kind of triangular shape works best, I've found. And then you're gonna walk backwards, make sure you don't run into anything, just pull it after you. And already we have a couple of bubbles. Let's see how big we can get them. Whew, that one popped. You'll notice that going slower seems to work better, so that the air just kind of gradually goes in without pulling it to that thin liquid layer too thin, making it pop. That was pretty cool. That one was giant. That was so cool. Now, let's try our homemade soap. I wonder if we can get it as big. Well, we have tested and tested. Our homemade soap doesn't seem to work quite as well as our store-bought soap, but it's almost there. So you could always try testing the recipe, maybe putting a little bit more sugar into it or a little bit more soap and seeing how that changes it. You could even try out a different recipe that you find in one of our books. Okay friends, here's my last experiment for you today. What else in your house can you use to make bubbles? Do you happen to have some pipe cleaners that you could turn into a bubble wand? What about a spatula with holes? Or a spaghetti server with holes in it? A whisk? A bottle opener? A cheese grater? A lid to a jar? What about a straw? Let's see how they work. Lots of little bubbles. That's kind of fun. Bottle opener. What about our spaghetti? Whoa! That is awesome. How about our spatula? Not too bad. What about our whisk? Got a bubble. Some more. This one's a lot harder. You have to get it to connect all the way, and it doesn't really like to. Here we go. Some bubbles. What else we have? Ooh, our pipe cleaner. Let's see. Okay, now a straw. Now the key with a straw is to make sure that you don't suck in, because you do not want to drink the bubbles. That'd be very bad. So you just want to get the tip in there. Some little bubbles. That is so much fun. Little tiny bubbles. Let's go back to our string. Some awesome giant bubbles. Well, I think it's your turn to try now. See what else you have in your house that you can make into a bubble blower. Try out different solutions. Be a scientist and experiment. Sometimes they'll fail, but sometimes they'll make an awesome giant bubble. Have fun.